evening, everyone. I want to invite you all to the February 5th, 2026 Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee. The first thing on our agenda is to approve our minutes, and I'm going to call on our Vice Chairman, Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I reviewed the minutes, find them in proper order, and another good job, Justin. I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second thing up is our public comments. We've had 3 people that have signed up to do comments tonight. I want to do a brief introduction here. When you come forward to the podium, please state your name, your address. You will have 3 minutes to talk. This is not a question and answer period. Anyway, the first person, sorry about that. The first person on the agenda is Elaine Williams. Ms. Williams is here. There she is.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Williams. My address is 3266 Memorial Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'm here today to speak on omissions to the Private Act, on edits to the Private Act. County Attorney Nicholas Christensen received edits on November 3rd from road board members that had edits to the Private Act. I was one of those road commissioners that submitted my edits to him, along with Commissioner Michael Shirley. It was to my utter surprise on last Friday to read the draft that we received that included all edits except for mine. I have an extensive financial background. My edits to the Private Act included mostly financial and the sharing of the road board being transparent to constituents, which I think is why they were purposely and intentionally omitted. You all have a packet before you. My humble request is that before approving for the proposed Private Act edits to go forward, that you would please pause to review them in full. You will find that all pages in the packet have facts presented. I want to share a couple of examples of no transparency to the constituents. Currently, there are no meeting minutes shared. Our annual road book that we have that is not shared and not available on the website. There are no annual bid dates on the website, no sharing of the public annual budget, no sharing of the public monthly financials, no after-hours phone numbers on the website, no visually recorded meetings for replay, no annual bids published on county purchasing site, no voicemail on for constituents to leave a message, no sharing of the monthly packets commissioners receive that is public data. And even though our meetings are recorded on cassette audio, not until recently are those made available if the constituents come to the office. I want to share a few examples of financial data as to why I included so many edits on financial. As the newest road commissioner, it was bothersome to me that the protocol in meetings is to come to a meeting, we say a prayer, we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and financials were approved without anyone ever reviewing them. We could not review them because the data was not provided in advance. I think that is not due diligence. Also, we found that there were a financial statement that was labeled a balance sheet was indeed not a balance sheet. And
Thank you, Ms. Williams. The next person who signed up is Michael Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Michael Anderson. My address is 829 Sunrise Street, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Did you give your address, or did I not hear you?
829 Sunrise Street.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm here today in support of the changes to the Rutherford County Highway Department Private Act. We have been having a discussion in regards to the Private Act for many months now. And there was changes that were suggested. I'm in agreement with those changes, and I just wanted to let the Budget Committee know that I support Mr. Christensen in the draft that he made for us to review as an example for the changes, and I support the leadership of the Highway Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next person that is signed up is Keith Bratcher.
My name is Keith Bratcher. I live at 210 Remington Drive, Lascassas, Tennessee. I'm a road board member of Zone 2. I spoke at the Public Works on Tuesday night on this same subject. I echo some of what Mr. Anderson said. We've worked on this many, many months, probably almost close to a year. And so we had Mr. Nick Christensen, our county attorney, do a draft, came back with that, and it was we were in agreement with it. There was a motion made, seconded, and we voted for it. And I'm agreement with all of it. So that's all. I support the county highway department. Hey, we have an excellent department out there. We're second to nobody in the state of Tennessee. Brag on this department all the time. So the men and women that work out there do a very good job for this county every day. So just want to echo that as well. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bratcher. I want to point out to the committee, Ms. Williams gave you a handout you should have. If you don't have it, let us know. Also, Mr. Michael Shirley, who's the road board representative for Zone 3, has left a handout for you. Next order of business is our investment report. Call on Mr. Beatty. Excuse me. Ted, I'm sorry.
Thanks, sir. I am Ted Beatty, Rutherford County Trustee. As we begin this, I just will remind everyone, since we collect property taxes, that February is here. February 28th is the last day to pay without interest. So certainly a reminder about your property taxes. We had one bid this month at 3.8%, and our LGIP was 371. So most of our investments are in the upper threes. But how that kind of impacts budget, we were kind of in the mid fives probably 18 months ago. We're in the upper threes as a general rule, between 3.7 and 4 is kind of where investments are. But may drop some, but seems stable, at least for the moment. That's my report, sir.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Second, Mr. Irving. Any speculation if there'll be any change if we have a new Fed chairman? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's all right. People get paid lots of money for that, Commissioner. If I knew all the, I think the market is pricing in some drops, but probably after May, when Mr. Walsh, if he is approved, will become the new Fed chairman in May very well. The market seems optimistic about Mr. Walsh. Probably this administration has been very vocal about wanting lower rates, and they appointed this gentleman to be the chairman, so probably would indicate that the tendency would be for lower rates. But the GDP has been strong. I think it will depend on two things. One, inflation, what it does going forward, and largely what happens to unemployment. I think if we see unemployment stabilize or drop, we'll see fewer. If we see weakness in the employment data, you'll probably see those rates drop more significantly. I think the speculation is at this point that the Fed is on pause. So it may be a midsummer before there's a drop. It could be before, but the new chairman, the term for Mr. Powell does not expire until May, so it'll be under his leadership till then. So, we're kind of making decisions based on probably headed lower into the future, but maybe not in the next month or two.
Thank you, Ted.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
We had a really healthy kind of investment income. I don't know if it's for TEB or or Michael, but do we have kind of a sense for kind of what we had and what we might be anticipating in terms of investment income?
Mike can speak, and I think kind of what we can anticipate. I'll give you this, Michael, is that income will decline some because rates. I mean, it's just a function of those rates are lower, but are much better than. I mean, I will remind us there was a time we were getting 3 basis points, not 3%, 0.03%, not all that long ago. So today we're at 380 in those same numbers, which is significantly better, but a little softer than it was. Mike, you've got.
So 2 things I want to say. Me and Teb talk not almost daily and for sure weekly on how the market's going, whether it's our bonds we're borrowing or the investments. But I was going to touch on this on my fund condition report, but I'll go ahead and touch on this now. We received about $2 million as of today compared to last year in the county general fund less in interest, and that's because we were earning 4.5 to 5, and now we're in the mid 3s.
We had some at 5.5.
But with that said, if you remember during the last 3 budget cycles, we have held our budget for investment income really low, and I say that in a sense of I didn't budget reoccurring revenue at that 5.5% because we knew it wasn't going to hold forever. So with that said, we used that excess. I kind of used that like one-time money because we did not want to rely on those 5.5% rates, because that would have generated potentially a property tax increase when the rates fell. So with that being said, we budgeted more around the 2 or 2.5% interest rates. So that's helped us weather this storm as rates have come down. From a budgetary level, we're very healthy there. But we do monitor that as we go through, like I said, for sure on a weekly basis. Sometimes, depending on the week, me and Ted may talk 2 or 3 times a week about it. But we have received about $2 million less in the general fund at this point as of last year. And I anticipate that continuing to go down a little bit, especially maybe this fall as they project maybe 2 or 3 more rate cuts, I would say. Does that help? Does that answer?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mike.
Any other questions from the committee? We have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 4, fund condition report. Michael?
So I just touched on one of the things I was going to talk about tonight was that question asked by Commissioner Irvin, was talking about a little bit of decreased collection and investment income. However, like I said a minute ago, we anticipated that and we knew that going forward, so we're right where we should be. Matter of fact, we've already collected over what we budgeted for that, knowing that was going to be the case at this point of the year. I'll also go ahead and note that property tax collection has continued to come in. We're right on par with where we should be. I report that back to y'all every month. I'll also add, as we've kind of monitor a more macroeconomic conditions, the county side of sales tax is still up. It's still up 17% year over year. So that is really good news for us and our school system as well. It's still up almost 7%. So that'll help us this year when it comes to budget time as well. With that said, we're right where we should be, both on revenue and expenditures for this year, right where we kind of expected. And with that, I'll take any questions.
You've heard the report.
Motion to approve that report.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, risk management financial report.
Good evening, Chairman.
Evening.
Commissioners, Ed Elam, Insurance and Risk Management Director. So the Fund 264 for the month of January 2026, revenue $2,043,564, expenses $2,263,406, revenue less expenditures a negative $219,843, and that would be the same for the year to date for the year. And then your total for the 25-26 fiscal year comparison is $14,325,530. Revenue, expenditures $18,104,327. Revenue less expenditures, $3,778,796. On the OJI, you have for the month of January, workers' comp, $227.52. OJI, $41,810.09, for a total of $42,037.61. Year-to-date totals, you have workers' comp, $130,422.27. OJI, $590,433.02. And for total is $720,855.29. And for the legal, you have for the month of January, $36,934.33. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve.
Second. Also, Mr. Elam, FYI, the change from Cigna to Humana has been very effective and smooth. Thank you.
That's what we're hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
All right.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you, Ed.
may I ask?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. We've talked about in the past, the health insurance premiums and that kind of thing. And if my recollection is correct, where that's going to go out for bid again in 2027.
Yes.
And so it's kind of this might be an Ed or a Michael, I'm not sure, question. Have we been looking internally about, done any kind of studies internally or externally about the premiums? Because premiums generally seem to be going up over time, and I'm trying to get ahead of so that we can get ahead of any kind of significant premium increase, and we have some options to look at, things along those lines.
Yes, so several things to your point. The RFP is out, has gone out just recently for medical, dental, vision, flexible spending account, stop loss, pharmacy, and I've probably left out one or two. That is out for bid presently. It will come back in, I think, the April sometime, and then come back to the purchasing committee, I think May, I believe is where we are on that. And we are, I will say to answer your question, because of what we're seeing trending in the medical field, we're trying everything we can to figure out where we can do some savings. You can cut coverage, and you can always find savings there. But then the other thing is claims are claims. And I'll give you an example. there was a new drug that came out, cancer drug that came out, four new cancer drugs that came out that were not there in 2025, that the plan paid over $500,000 for. It's a new drug, and of course, when it's a new drug, it's expensive. But the data shows that it was effective. Another thing to explain the difference in that number that you have.
We're basically self-insured at this point. Is that accurate?
We're self-insured, yes.
Okay, and I'm curious if we've looked at other. You mentioned a few things, cutting, things like that.
Yeah.
Are we looking at other options?
We're looking at other options, fully insured plan.
The state plan?
Looked at the state plan. We look at the state plan almost every year to some degree. Now, to dive down into every single drug, every single procedure, the cost of every single procedure, I mean, it's pretty complex. But this is out, right now we're seeing what's out for bid and see what we can do to reduce that cost. Sometimes you have a bundle, like our medical and pharmacy are bundled together. We may have to change that. It doesn't mean that we're going to not cover a drug, but it may be that we can find a less expensive process that would allow, you would still be able to get the drug, but you may be restricted on a network. And that's not uncommon. I mean, sometimes Kroger's in a network, sometimes they're not, or or Publix or something like that. But it doesn't reduce the benefit. You just may be inconvenienced that you can't get your drugs and your groceries at the same place because that particular pharmacy is higher for the exact same drug.
Commissioner, I think one of the things you asked about too was, what are we kind of looking at internally as too? And I think one of the things we need to mention is we do an actuarial study. Our consultant does for us a statistical analysis, an actuarial study. They have several actuarial individuals on their team for us. So one of the things as they do that for us several times a year, right? Because as we have claims data that changes, the more recent data we can plug into that model. They run several Monte Carlo simulations for us. So I'm thinking one of the things that may be good and we could bring back to this committee, and we bring it to the insurance committee kind of every year, is we could bring back kind of some of that Monte Carlo analysis and look and see what that projection is. Me and Ed talk pretty regularly on what that's going to look like as we prepare the budget. So I think that's something that could help us plan going forward as far as when we look at how we structure the plan and look for savings. We utilize that a lot because sometimes that Monte Carlo may say I need to raise insurance rates 25%. But that's also maybe the worst case scenario. You know, it depends on the level of risk we want to absorb. It also depends on our confidence level in the model. And so as we run those models, we can bring that back to this committee and see what we think that might look like next year to kind of get ahead of that. Me and Ed have already kind of talked internally about what we think that's going to look like. But I think that's probably what you're getting at as far as we plan for next year's budget.
Yes, the short answer is premiums will likely increase. I don't know how much yet. Fairly dramatically, maybe not. But I'm trying to get a sense, are you looking at all of the options? Or better yet, could you look at all of the options in that analysis and bring it back next month? Because if we're going out to bid, I don't know exactly what the timeline is, but having worked in companies, sometimes things have timelines and drop dead dates and all that kind of stuff. If we are not looking at it now, then and in a position to make a decision soon, it may not be possible to change until the next cycle. So, I mean, would you be willing to come back next month with some, and Michael, is that, I'm asking kind of both because I know y'all.
I think what we can do is me and Ed can get together between now and next month, maybe lay out a timeline of what that looks like so that this committee and you know, the insurance committee, this committee, and the full commission has the most options available to them. Because you're right, one of the things Ed's office has to really worry about is getting everything ready for open enrollment. That's why we start now, because, you know, we do the open enrollment in the fall, but that really starts now, putting all those bids out and stuff. So maybe we'll get together between now and the next meeting and come up with some more data, and maybe that means bringing our consultant to this meeting. I mean, that's an option we could look at. And look at bringing some of the options to this committee back next month, if that's okay with the committee.
Yeah, and the RFPs are out at the moment. They're just proposals. And to your point, there's one thing that I really take seriously, and that is healthcare is expensive for people. I mean, it is extremely expensive. And there are people, we have county employees that you don't want to price it out of their budget to where they can't afford it. So you want to try to keep it as affordable as possible, but you're looking at deductibles, you're looking at maximum out of pocket, and so you're always trying to make sure that it's not so high that you have employees that just can't afford health insurance. And that is one big consideration when I look at it is, how can we keep those prices down as much as possible? And, when you look at this and you look at the difference in last year, 2 years ago, we were at a $3 million surplus. And so then we did because of inflation, because of what the employees were having to deal with at the time, we decided to go with a flat rate. And so now you're beginning to see it turn back in the other direction.
Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to get ahead of the curve to the extent we can.
I'm with you. Come see me sometime. I'll be happy to sit down and any input, I'll be happy to talk to you.
I'll look forward.
I'm all ears.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 6, funding for programming of the jail. And I'm going to call on our Chairman Pro Tem, Mr. Gooch, to initiate this talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I just have a few opening remarks. I serve on the Correctional Partnership Study Group. But this group was started about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, to assess problems and possible solutions to our adult detention center and our sheriff's office.
Who is on that group?
The Mayor Joe Carr, and I do want to thank these people because we had multiple meetings and we toured the jail. But Mayor Joe Carr, Chief of Staff Eric Hennessy, 3 county commissioners, including myself, Pettis Reed, and Laura Davison, Sheriff Fitzhugh, and members of his staff, Keith Lowry, Steve Spence, Keith Henderson, Dr. Rudd, Chris Kaufman, and Brian Harbaugh. Our district attorney, Jenny Jones, 2 judges, Judge Terry Fan and Jimmy Turner, our finance director, Michael Smith, who contributed a little bit, the Correctional Work Center director, William Cope, Bob Bass with the Tennessee Correctional Institute, who was very instrumental in providing us information, and Jim Hart with CTAS. Bart Klein was also in attendance for our meeting. I may have left out a few, but I believe those was the main working group.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Our conclusion is that, yes, we desperately need a new jail and more than likely a new location. At the time that our current jail facility was built, the population of Rutherford County was around 200,000 people. Today, we're pushing about 400,000, and we're the 4th largest county in the state. The core of the current adult detention center was built for 500 inmates, and the core is still for 500 inmates. Many days, our population is over 1,000, and our safety max is 830. The next step of the study group is to ask the county commission for funding the programming stage. The partnership study group voted unanimously for this. Public safety looked at this and voted unanimously, and property management also looked at this and voted unanimously to send to us to forward to the county commission. Our goal here is to move forward to assess more detailed information to know what we need to build, the size of our location, department placement, cost, among other things. Today, many questions will not be able to answer, but I'm confident that during and after the programming stage, all questions will be able to be answered. I learned a lot about the state of our jail system, and for me, it can be summed up by one of our study group members, Keith Henderson, when he said, and I agree with him, we will get a new jail. We just need to decide, will it be local folks building our new jail, or will it be the federal government? And I would suggest to you that we want local folks building our jail. We don't want people from Washington coming down and telling us what we need to spend to build a new jail. Also, and I think that the sheriff, and I don't want to speak for the sheriff or Mr. Bass, but I think they will tell you that because of our overcrowded situation, we are this close of being disclassified, just decertified for our jail. But if we have an active working plan, which we currently have an active working plan, that we could receive a little grace. But if we don't send this to the county commission, or if the county commission votes no, then we no longer have an active working plan. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Before we proceed, it's been brought to my attention that we did not vote on Mr. Elam's report. And at this time, we do have a motion and a second to approve his report. All in favor of approving Mr. Elam's report signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Sorry about that, guys. That was my fault. Getting lost in our discussion there. Now back to item 6 here, funding for the jail. At this time, is there someone else that wants to present for this item? Sheriff, I don't know if it's you or someone else. Michael, have we got anybody lined up to do that?
So tonight I was requested to have both the PowerPoint from the sheriff's office and from Bart Klein. So that'll be up to them if they want to come and present. I don't have any order laid out for them. It's whatever they would like to do. I think the sheriff's PowerPoint's pulled up first.
Welcome, Sheriff.
Thank you. So what he said, that's I think that what he has stated is conveyed very well. Jim Hart, who is with us from County Technical, and Bob Bass from Tennessee Corrections are on Zoom with us. And there was a booklet that was given out to all the commissioners probably, gosh, a year or better ago that outlined Mr. Hart's assessment of our facility and the needs and where we see we're going in terms of population. I think you all have seen it. I'm not going to read it. I mean, I could get Jim to go over it again if you so wish, but my hope is that you all have read this, and it's pretty well stated in there where we're headed all the way through year 2045. A few things that Chairman Gooch said, and one thing I'd like to say, the original jail that we now know as the annex was built in 1987. A jail averages a year, 3.5 years of use every year it's in existence. So the old part of our facility is 133 years old, based on use. That jail was built for 84 inmates, and at that time, when we moved into it, we moved in with about 70 inmates, and we had 88 employees at that time. In 1998, a 9-story building went up. That is what we now call the high-rise. And here again, using that same analogy, that building is 94.5 years. The reason for that type of 3.5 is the building never closes, the water never quits running, the lights are never off, medical is never stopped, feeding is never stopped, laundry's never stopped. So it's a continuous process that goes on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We never close. In the high-rise at that time, it accounted for 400 single-cell units, so that brought us to 484 based on the annex plus the jail. At that time, we moved in approximately 400 inmates, and we had 282 employees in 1998. Moving that to today and start moving forward, in 2000 and 2005, because of the population increase in the inmate population, we had to add a second bunk to single cells. Those cells were built for single cell capacity, and that's fine and good, but the problem is because of TCI standards, each person in the cell has to have 35 square feet of free space. We do not meet that criteria. If you have 35 square feet of free space for the inmates, then we can lock them up for longer periods of time. Because of that, we can only lock them up for 10 hours a day. They've got to be out of the cells for at least 14 hours every day to meet standards that TCI puts on us. Mr. Gooch talked about a plan of action, and let me explain that a little bit. We are at full capacity. We are over capacity. 830 or 85% of our population is considered full. The reason for that is certain inmates have got to be segregated. There's certain mental health cases that's got to be segregated. We have medical situations where a person has to be put in a cell by themselves. We deal with lice, we deal with scabies. People come in that way, and we've got to deal with it. So you've got to use a single cell, and you've got a double bunk cell, but we've got to put one person there. So there's why that 15%. We also have weekenders that come in that are sentenced to serve on weekend. So you've got to have someplace to put them. So that's where we are. Today's standard, we're running about 1,050 per day inmate. We got a building that was built for about 200, 280 employees. I've got 671 employees today. So needless to say, not only have we outgrown the inmate side of the house, we've outgrown the administrative side of the house also. Rather than going on, and the population was mentioned. In 1987, we had estimated 108,215 population in Rutherford County. In 1998, 169,330. The last number I've got now is 379,930, and I'm sure we've surpassed that by now. And so as the population grows, so does the inmate population, because we're going to get the bad that comes with the good. And we've got to have some place to put these people. So I'm going to give you a few slides, just an example of what we got. This is our Sally Port. It was built basically for, we can get a van and 2 cars in there. In the Sally Port, the way it was built, we've got an employee entrance, a bondsman entrance, and an inmate entrance all sitting there together, which causes an extremely, extremely dangerous situation to have. That's another look at the Sally Port. Inmates come in clothed. We got to have some place to put their property. And this is an example of where it is now. That space was not built for 1,000 inmates. Another example of the room. That's all inmate clothing, what they come in with. Storage room, we've got storage. We do not have storage space for uniforms, food, and whatnot for 1,000 inmates. But that's an example of our storage where we've got mattresses and so forth. This was an indoor rec room, was served as a courtroom in the annex, the first original. Now we're having to use it for multi-purpose. This is the only room we've got for training that we can provide programs for our inmates. Obviously, the lack of room for inmate programs, then it affects recidivism, which we try to do something for the inmates to reduce that. We're having to use that also for court. When we have video court, then we have to clear out the room for the court. So it's a multi-purpose room, but it's the only one we got. This is where the video court is. This is where the inmate is held, waiting to go before the judge. This was a room that we had to convert. We've got 8 people working in this room now. Desk would not fit in there, so we had inmate labor built desks for us that are a smaller version of a regular desk so we could fit them into this room. Another example of the same room. We've got one loading dock, and that's it. It's in the back of the building, extremely hard for a tractor trailer. But we've got food and clothing and items are being delivered every single day, and this is one loading dock. Another example. This is our laundry. It was not built for 1,000 inmates. Laundry going just about 24 hours a day, trying to keep it up. Another look at it. The original building, the second tall high-rise, the showers were built with cinder block. It's almost next to impossible because of moisture and whatnot to keep this in good working order. But this is an example of an inmate shower. We've got people on CPAP machines that we've got to have electrical for. So we're having to run electrical out of boxes to put into the cells to do that with. So the jail was not built for the type of medical problems that we deal with. We are averaging about 8,000 medical encounters a month at the jail. We're not adequately spaced to handle that, but we're doing the best we can. A lot of the medical needs are sometimes handled in the pod because we don't have room for them downstairs. But just a side-by-side comparison of some of the things that do to build or not build, and just use that as a comparison. You can read it for yourself. And then what happens if we don't build? But that's basically a nutshell of where we are today. We're considered capacity at 830, using the 85% capacity. 977 if we got every bed bunk loose. We're lower than that on the female side, but the problem I've got, I can't house male prisoners on the female side. So while I may have 20 beds over there, I can't move males over there, and I'm way over on the male side of the house. You have a question?
Yes, Sheriff. Based on your assessment in this last slide, are you seeing an uptick in violence?
In what?
In violence?
I'm sorry.
Are you having violent encounters? Violence. Violence.
I'm still not understanding. Violence. Okay, thank you.
That bad?
Yeah, we had, one of us, I can't hear, so anyway. Last week, because of leaving the inmates out, we had an inmate on the phone, and another inmate came up and jerked his arm and dislocated it. Of course, obviously, that inmate's charged, but we've got a medical situation. We had to send that inmate out to the doctor, to the hospital, to have the arm reset. There's some things that we can't do at our facility, so we have to go to the hospital to do it. But violence, yes, we've had 55 last year inmates injured. We've had 8 to 10 of our staff injured because of people being out. Our pods are about 50 a pod in the male side of the house, and you've got a rover that we go through, then a rover goes through, and sometimes that's a single person in a pod of 50 people, because we have to leave them out. On suicide watch, we have to watch every 15 minutes to meet standards. So, but violence, yes. The type of crime that we're seeing, or the inmates are being incarcerated now, we're seeing a lot of felony that used to be low-level misdemeanor. We're getting more felony. I've got murderers housed there. I've got rapists housed there, and they're with us. So we've got a whole floor of that. But yes, in answer to your question, yes, we do. In looking at a new facility, one of the things we want to look at is ways that we can separate that. And classification is a huge thing that we have to do on classifying these inmates because of the way the crime committed. Any other questions? Quickly, Jim or Bob, or anything you want to add, or is that pretty well covered from your point?
Yes, sir, you did a fine job, and a lot of those photographs were from the study, the 6-month study that we were involved in on the needs assessment to evaluate the facility from an operational perspective, evaluate population trends and a 20-year population projection, and not only the numbers, but also the type of beds that would support the inmate population. And the commission had asked a question on violence. That is a great question that we are seeing all across the state, of increased violence among inmates, the type of inmates in custody, but violence on staff as well. And it's the critical need to have adequate bed space and the right type of bed to separate offenders by the individual risk and needs are critical. And the only other thing, Sheriff, that I might add in that study was to have the discussion, which this programming component will really drill down into, of whether expansion or a new facility would be appropriate. And because it's not just bed space, as you've demonstrated quite well, it's not just bed space that is needed. It is all the different types of support functions, food service, medical, warehouse operations, booking and intake space, the right type of housing to support it. And then the other piece of the puzzle of that is that you're basically operating two jails right now, staffing two jails, even though they're connected. But an expansion would then further add more staffing to support that. And hopefully the programming phase will give you information to show that does it make sense to expand, and then the additional staff costs, operational costs go with it, or what would it look like on a complete green site with a new modern kind of facility. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, Sheriff, and we'll be here for any questions.
Bob, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think Jim just stole all my thunder. This is just a natural step in this process. My role with TCI is the County Correction Partnership coordinator. I too want, as the commissioner did, I want to thank the group. They did a amazing job. They were really engaged. They asked a lot of questions. I did a snapshot in 23, delivered it in 24, and then as we processed through the learning phase of it and talking about what your future needs were, then we asked Jim Hart to come in and do the study, the needs assessment. So the programming component of it is the next natural step. It's going to answer a lot of questions about what you need to do in the future. And at the same time, you can use a go, no-go rule that we like to call, what direction do we need to go, what needs to be done, and analyze it as we do that. Understanding what beds that we need. Your jail has as you have very well pointed out, a very serious classification issue. And that's just simply, we can't put some of the inmates that are compatible with non-compatibles. We need to avoid that. And sometimes that happens. And some of that violence that you just talked about is what occurs. So both of you did a good job of covering that. And I want to thank everybody there at Rutherford County for letting me be part of that. I appreciate it very much, Sheriff.
Thank you. Let me ask one thing, and Commissioner Gooch covered this very well, but let me explain plan of action and how that works. If you are decertified based on population, if you have a plan of action and active is a very key part of this. You can have a plan of action and the commission or the mayor or the sheriff is not making any movement towards solution, then you will be decertified. I sat on the board of the TCI Board of Control, and we had several places, one recently that had a plan of action, and the plan of action had been in for a long time, and they were keeping their certified status. The problem is, once we got to looking at it, there was no active plan. They were not making any movement. So the board has now taken a look at those, and with no plan of action in place, then we will decertify you. And we're holding to that very well. That's what we're trying to do here, is we know that's coming. We know we're beating on the door. We know it's going to happen. So what we're wanting to do is to get our plan of action in place and have an active plan of action where we're making movement towards a solution to this problem, where we can keep our certification. I don't know if it's going to be this year or maybe next, but I know it's coming. Last year when they were here, we were hovering right around a little less than 1,000. Consistently, we cannot get below 1,000, about 1,050, and that's every day. No matter how many we let come out, we got that many more coming in. Our booking was built for about 400 inmates. It's not built. We got 2,000, almost 2,500 movement in and out of booking every single month. So we're at a stage now where our building is totally inadequate. Will, you've got some things, I don't know if y'all want to look, but there's some other things from a standpoint, because we're talking about detention, but we've got a great need from administration. We've got a short presentation, if y'all will bear with us, would like for you to see that. And then we'll move on and let Bart kind of wrap us up.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me. I'll try to be as brief as I can. taking the place of Chief Coffin tonight. He's out of town, so I got volunteered to do this, so I'll do the best that I can. What the sheriff's been talking tonight about is the detention side of the sheriff's office. We also have a law enforcement side, which is the men and women you see on the street, your SROs, your detectives, your warrants officers, your people that are serving civil process, and your patrol deputies. And we're currently housed at the detention center as well as part of an administrative office. You can see there there's an overview of the sheriff's office there. You can see the tower in the background. That front portion, a portion of that is the administrative office. The purpose is to provide an overview of how staffing growth and operational demands have outpaced facility capacity, resulting in significant limitations that affect efficiency, training, evidence, security, and long-term sustainability for law enforcement operations. The Sheriff's Office conducts law enforcement operations across 3 separate buildings, excluding the detention center. You can see the tower there in the background. Main Sheriff's Office, which is 940 New Salem, opened in 1987. The Criminal Investigation Division, CID building at 964 New Salem Highway was purchased in 2012. That's that long building you see there with the white top. And the Narcotics building, which is at a undisclosed location here in the county, we purchased that in 2017. Operations that were once centralized are now spaced across 3 different locations in the county. When the main sheriff's office opened in 1987, it housed approximately 53 law enforcement personnel and 88 total employees with about 18,000 square feet. You can see in the green there, the green shaded portion is the administrative part of the sheriff's office, and that's where most of those individuals I was just talking about are housed. Today in 2022, the sheriff's office employs 383 law enforcement personnel, representing a 623% increase in staffing. Despite this growth, the main facility has only expanded to 19,689 square feet since 2010. The facility growth has remained largely static, while staffing and service demands have increased exponentially. As a result, we've had to eliminate our weight room, turn storage closets and restrooms into functional workspace and offices. There's only 6 restrooms, 3 male and 3 female, in that green shaded area there. And these aren't commercial style restrooms like you'd see at Walmart. These are, one person lavatories. The main building has undergone repeated remodeling to create office space. Some personnel no longer have dedicated workspace. I can tell you that I currently supervise the patrol division. I've worked throughout all these divisions that I'm going to discuss with you at some point, or supervisor worked in them. But in patrol, I have about 121 personnel. And we've got an area maybe as big as this raised platform. Now, the majority of the time we're out on the street, but during roll call and shift change, when people come in to do paperwork and turn things in, there might be 40 people in that room. Supervisors have shared offices, but I probably have 90 plus deputies that alternate between 2 workstations. The CID building, which is 14,000 square feet, houses CID, SROs, training, special operations, SWAT, and approximately 60 employees work there daily. It also houses our training division. 60 employees come there daily, but we only have 30 parking spaces. This building also has 3 bathrooms. All office space is fully occupied with former closets and common areas converted into office record storage, and our record storage is maxed out, and we frequently have to do purging to make room for other things or take things to other storage locations. The narcotics building, which is 16,000 square feet, houses 22 investigators and has only 3 bathrooms. Since purchase, over $108,000 has been spent on repairs, and significant additional investment has been required to maintain technology and infrastructure. The 16,000 square feet, I know that sounds like a lot for 22 investigators, but narcotics also sees a lot of high-value property, which we're required to maintain custody and care of and take care of. If it's damaged while it's in our care before it's awarded to us, we got to pay for it. So a lot of that square footage in the narcotics office houses vehicles and seized property and a lot of their operational vehicles and things that they use. Training and readiness. The Sheriff's Office has only one training room with a capacity for approximately 20 people, despite multiple simultaneous training needs. There is no on-site defensive tactics training space requiring deputies to rely on borrowed facilities that are subject to availability. These limitations directly impact readiness, compliance, and officer safety. A lot of times when we're doing defensive tactics trainings, we have to go to local schools and borrow their gym room or borrow their wrestling room to conduct those trainings, which, you know, during school hours or during the school year is hard to do because there's students there, so a lot of that has to be done in the summertime. But that half of that building, where it's split in half there, the other side is our transport office, but half of that building is where we conduct our training. I think we trained 80 deputies last year, new deputies, for all those divisions. We can only do 20 at a time. I think they had 4 training classes. I think we had about 20 in each class. And so all 80 went through that building, and it gets pretty tight in there when you got 20 plus people in there, plus an instructor. Evidence and records. I supervised evidence for a little while before I came over here to the patrol side, and so this is one of the things that kept me awake at night. All of our DNA, all of our cold cases, all of our homicide cases, all of our narcotics, everything that we have that we take off the street that's waiting trial is stored there. Physical evidence is stored in a 100 by 30 metal building that is not ready for high winds or tornadoes, creating a significant liability, risk. Evidence storage and space for servers has reached a maximum limit and requiring ongoing reactive investments rather than planned upgrades. We're constantly having to go through this evidence to destroy it and to get it off the book so we can make room for new stuff. With increased population, we take in more evidence, and we've got a lot of cold cases and things like that. If we get a strong enough wind or a tornado comes through there, we'll have DNA evidence and cold case evidence strewn throughout the county, and we're going to have a real hard time prosecuting any of those cases after that. Rutherford County population growth has driven increases in crime, investigations, arrests, warrants, evidence collection, digital storage, and specialized enforcement units. The Sheriff's Office facilities can no longer meet current operational demands, and there's no remaining room for internal expansion. I supervised maintenance as well prior to doing this, and I can tell you that we were constantly remodeling, doing upgrades, turning storage closets into something else, converting bathrooms into offices, and we are completely out of room. Our old conference room is now offices, and our old weight room is now office space as well. The current state of our facilities is a contributing factor to our inability to maintain reasonable level of retention, staff, and certified deputies. I know we talk about money and other things about recruiting and keeping people. Another thing that young deputies want to see when they come to places, they go to Brentwood, they go to Franklin, they go to Murfreesboro, they see these nice training facilities, they see these nice departments, and they see places where they can train and do things, and that's a recruiting tool as well, and to help keep people at your department. All right, the bottom line, this is a photograph from 1987. The administrative building was built. The Sheriff's Office has reached a critical infrastructure threshold. Facilities designed nearly 40 years ago no longer align with the current staffing levels, training requirements, evidence security standards, or public safety expectations. Without a comprehensive facility solution, operational efficiency, officer readiness, and risk of exposure will continue to decline. I appreciate y'all's time, and if anybody's got any questions, I'll do my best to answer those for you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bart Klein with Klein Sweeney Associates. Here today to talk about the programming phase for the Justice Center project. Many of you have seen this presentation, so it's been condensed since the first time it was presented. So if there's specific things you want to talk about outside this meeting, I'm more than happy to get into the details on it. So first of all, the programming phase, we have 10 separate consultants that are going to be working throughout this phase. Many of them we have worked with for many years. Some of our history dates back 40, 50 years. These consultants all have direct experience with all the different types and subject matter experts, from criminal justice to medical to mental to food and laundry. But basically, of these consultants, you could probably see there's probably about 20 to 30 people that will actually be engaged in this project over the next 6 months in this task. And the main portion of this task, really, so this team, a little bit, they all have experience. So Klein Sweeney, we will manage this whole process. We celebrated 70 years of business this year. I think we've done 68 criminal justice projects. We've done everything from work center to multi-custody to mental health and criminal justice, which this project basically engages all of those aspects. And that's why this hefty consultant team is needed. Very similar, we just did a forensics building with you guys that's under construction. The medical cadaver lab is very specific. This type of facility is very specific. So some of these consultants are just, this is all they do, and they live and breathe certain aspects of this project. As we look at the overall schedule of the project for the programming phase, so one, it's broken into 3 separate sections, the colors yellow, blue, and green. Yellow is the programming phase, the blue being site investigations and green being planning. But our objective in the yellow color area is to learn everything about the sheriff department, understand every piece of property he touches, how each piece of property he touches interacts with one another, what his needs are, also from not just a building standpoint, but from a policy standpoint, how those building needs change when different policies are changed. Many of you know there is a jail committee meeting that meets the end of every month. That's a good meeting to go into to hear some of the conversations that are going to go on. But when we talk about staffing and they talk about certification and they talk about classification and all that kind of stuff, you're going to hear judges and district attorneys and designers, and they're all going to be talking about these elements to really understand what the need is and how to come up with different solutions for the need. One thing that some of you may know, from 2009 to 2011, KSA was engaged in programming for a new facility, not a new facility, but renovations to the existing. That was updated 3 different times. That was under a different administration. But when I compared the full programming phase then to actually the CTAS report that was done in 2025, then we were looking at roughly 30,000 square foot of renovation, 70,000 square foot of new for the sheriff's support space, and roughly 1,600 inmates altogether. When you actually compare that to the 2025 report, it's pretty eye-opening how they're very similar. So this program phase in yellow, everything from Mr. Hart's report, we'll have our own group doing a very similar study. So they're always comparing, they're working hand in hand with TCI. And then, you know, this is where we go and visit other facilities. I know we already have something set up for March 6th to go look at a police station, but we'll be going to different facilities across the U.S. and across the state to understand the operational models and the pros and cons. And it's really for us to hear how the sheriff and them want to operate, and then look at models that they may look at to both, make operations easier, reduce costs. As you move into the blue, that is kind of the site investigation. So during the yellow, we've come up with all this information, we've gathered the information, we've hypothesized on different operations and how that looks. In the blue, we look at site investigation. So we know we're looking at the existing. What does that look like? We know we got floodway issues. We know we got all kinds of issues there. And then if there's other sites that come in play, what do those sites look like? What are the site investigations? What does the dirt look like? So we got geotechnical, we got environmental. They're basically looking at all the sites to get a clean bill of health. Once we go through all the site investigations, then we move into the planning phase. And for us, we're taking all of this information and we're testing that information in some type of product element. And basically, that allows this commission, well, it would actually be the next commission, but we would have all that information here in 6 months to where you can start making decisions on what to do. And everything from operations costs to where it would go to how everything would be ordered on the site to what it would cost, all that information is kind of put to test at that last phase. Yes, sir.
If I could ask, just to kind of go back up to like 30, 40,000 foot.
Yes.
Are you going to revisit the jail, no jail, or are we? Okay,
Yes.
so you're going to be looking at, do we need a new jail? Do we need a modified jail?
Yes.
Do we need some other kind of
Yes.
configuration? Okay. All right. So, and then the scope also includes what size or various sizes, and
Yes.
they'll be scalable, smaller or larger?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the scope, because it's a great presentation. I'm just trying to make sure. And then you're going to be looking at the location and then running that location as efficiently as possible, meaning are there other groups that we could bring in that could share resources within that area?
Yes. Yeah, that'd be part of the
For example, we
study.
talked about Workhouse the other day.
Yes.
And so you'll be looking at all of those areas.
Yes.
There's no preconceived notions.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to be doing this basically independently, or is the working group and the working group continue, or does it become more public safety committee, or what's the, I guess property management obviously plays a role. I'm trying to think through who it.
So how we see it is the working group that's set up that meets once a month, this programming phase, will be talking every day for the next 6 months. They will probably be over 100 meetings, I'm sure. And there'll be a lot of reports and synthesization, because we don't go into this with a solution in mind. We don't know if it's a new jail. We don't know if it's an addition. We don't know if it's, revise the workhouse. That's what this process is about. So typically what we would see is probably a download of information to a larger body, maybe once a month, but make it available to where any of you can come and be part of these meetings. For instance, if we talk about some sheriff needs, let's talk about their firing range. We may have a meeting just on firing ranges, and we may go look at all kinds of firing ranges. We'll probably bring in our firing range consultant, and we'll work through that small programmatic element that's probably 1% of the whole percentage of programs. So there's so many elements like that. And so if you're wanting to know, can you attend all these meetings? Obviously you can, Wayne, but
Yeah.
I think I'm answering your question.
Yes, and that's great. What I'm trying to, and I appreciate you'll be meeting every day, because I think this is the kind of the level of attention that the jail, for example, would need.
Yes.
And so, but I'm trying to get a sense so that other folks, and the mayor and I had a discussion about this the other day about putting things online and things like that. And I just want to make sure that the process will be as transparent as possible. And I would encourage, as part of your process, as a part of any other process, that there be as much transparency, meeting minutes, making it available online or whatever, and maybe I'm hypothetically, like a daily, weekly update type scenario. So everybody knows this is what's going on at this point in time, so that taxpayers down the road, when they see a $400 million hit to the budget, so to speak, translation, whatever, well, translate it however you want, they're not surprised.
Absolutely. So things we do is work sessions and documentation and opening an online portal. Well, that information is always there. I'll definitely be here. You guys know me well. I'm not a stranger. I'll probably be here a whole lot, I'm guessing, to many meetings, talking at night. But I could see us having community meetings. We've had those in the past to get the community on board because, it's easier to build a high school than it is a jail. And we all know that, because that's just the reality of it. So we're going to make all that information, and we would probably work up a plan of action on how to address that concern, and we would circulate that through the mayor's office and the commission to get everybody on board with what we're showing before we commit to it. I know the mayor asked me, hey, what's the next, if we do this, what's the next look like? I said, well, first, I want a sit-down meeting with the sheriff, or we sit down and eat lunch with all of them, and I hear everything they've got to say for the last, and just hear it all. And then we come up and kind of really get focused on our plan of action and where do we start first and where do we go and all of this stuff.
And I appreciate that very much. I just want to emphasize the communication part.
Yes.
And transparency.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bart.
So as we talk through the schedule, we're going to be living in the world of spreadsheets for quite some time. If this is 6 months, probably a good, 75% of it will be living in that world. So every space down to the janitor closet, we're going to identify the need of that space, what the electrical requirement is, what type of sink's in there, and then what the operation cost of using the space is, how's it staffed. All that information is in there, and we basically create a grail, a booklet that we call the Holy Grail. And it's really important after the program phase, once you figure out that solution or solutions, and the body here picks one of those solutions, when you go to the subsequent phase of design, you don't start changing your mind and doing this, because that's when that budget number that you get to and you say, it's called project creep. And it happens greatly when you get out of program if you don't stay to your initial program. So this is a long process. It's there to pull everything out. We have everything. There's a gentleman by the name of Robert Hurley I've talked about with Department of Corrections. He's been living locks for the last 4 years, or replacing every lock across the state. I plan on getting the sheriff department over to sit down with this guy. In his space, he's got 10 doors on wheels, and he's figured out how to heart abuse a lock. And let's just talk to this guy. Let's put your lock guy together. So we're going to get in that level of detail, because we got to assign cost to those items in the programming session. So the least amount of input of information you put into the program, that's what you get out of it. So we want to fill it full of that information. After we get into the spreadsheets, we start looking at what does this space look vertically, horizontally. What I can tell you, if we were to stay at the existing site, we did an exhaustive look at that. We know that that means another tower, and it can only go in one location. We know that the staffing cost of a tower is more than the staffing cost of a horizontal. So we're going to look at all those different scenarios. Is it a campus? Is it one building? All that kind of stuff will kind of go through these phases. As we take all that information in the spreadsheets, and we know where all these little boxes are, we start to see what their adjacency requirements are. So much like you think of a food processing plant, while this is not that, operations we want to run smoothly all the way through. So we want certain spaces next to other spaces. We want circulation to be a certain way, both on the public side and the non-public side. So we call this kind of adjacency diagrams. It starts to form what starts to look like a floor plan. And then we start testing that. So I learned that the sheriff's budget is $80 million a year. And so if you think about the operations budget of a building, and that's what this is, it looks at staffing of a specific building. So if we design a building one way versus the other, if you're able to save 10% on staffing costs, yeah, that may only be, for easy math, $1 million that year, but let's look at it in 40 years, 50 years. So it helps you make decisions on which way to go, because we're not here looking at the first initial cost always, we're always looking at the long-term cost of these facilities. And then we'll get into here, these are some drawings just showing direct or indirect and different supervision models. That's all going to be part of it, but you'll start to see a plan arise out of this program, because we want to get it into enough detail to test that concept, that last phase of that schedule, to know we don't have any surprises moving into the next phase, which is very important. And overall, so, give or take, a couple months, depending on the programming process, the time frame for that, 6 months, it could go 7, it really depends on what comes out of the programming, because we could start looking at different sites, all kinds of stuff can happen. So this is, don't hold me to the fire on this one, but 6 months programming, planning. By the time we're done with that, I want to say there's probably going to be a new commission. But we would present that information to this group. This group has the ability to talk about it, deliberate which direction to go, and then you would move into a design and engineering phase. And after that design and engineering phase, let's say it's 12 to 14 months, then you would move into the construction phase. And, you know, this project's 24 to 30 months for construction. And then every building, no matter what it is, we got to work the kinks out of it. I think it's about 14 months it kind of takes to get the kinks out of a building. But my team's typically around after we construct a building for 2 years. And we're making sure it gets all the stuff worked out, because my dad used to use this analogy. When you see a building and it's built down to the brickwork and the people that designed it and planned it, you know, there could be over 1,000 people that touch that building, from the guy making the AC unit at the plant that's coming there. And so, you know, stuff happens. It's not a perfect scenario, but we manage that whole process. Any questions about the program and phase? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Generic question. So at some point, we'll need to decide as far as, are we going to do hard bids? Are we going to do a manager at risk, PBA? At what point do we need to make that decision as far as this timeline?
We will typically, at the end of the programming phase, we talk about the project delivery method, and it all depends on what we do. So I've told you, so it's in that 6-month period towards the end. A good example of a project we did of this size we've been working on since 2015, you've heard me talk about this project, it's a $500 million law enforcement training campus for the state. We actually hard bid the infrastructure. We hard bid what we felt comfortable hard bidding, and we used CMs for what we felt comfortable doing. The state actually thought that they've done their analysis, they feel like they've saved about 10-15% doing a mixed process. Well, 10-15% of a $500,000 or $300 million, whatever the number is, that's the difference of a building. That's a big number. So we actually, for that project, we hard bid all the infrastructure work out, and then we CM'd one building type out, we hard bid another type out. So we may want a contractor that knows jails very well and CM that, but when it comes to a sheriff's station or a police station, we feel comfortable bidding that out. You know, so it just depends on how it's going to shake out, and that'll all happen in that programming phase.
Well, I got a follow-up question on that. How do we go about, once you complete the program, determining if we were to hard bid a portion of it or seeing at risk of it? How do we figure that out?
Mayor, nobody can hear you without a microphone. Please move up and you're recognized, but I want you to be speaking where people can hear you.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. The follow-up question was, how, at the conclusion of the programming, does this body go about determining what portion, if any, would be hard bid and what portion would be CMA at risk for us to take advantage of that potential 10 to 15% savings?
We will.
Again, my apologies, Mr. Chair.
Yes, so through the programming phase, we will have subject matter experts for all different stuff, and we will provide options and solutions for you guys to talk about and discuss. And there's pros and cons to everything. I know me and Michael have had these conversations a lot because Michael comes from the hard bid world and of schools. I'm a hard bid guy too, but CM at risk is good for some things as well. But we will provide all that information, and that's a long conversation, a long answer.
Commissioner Piercy.
The previous jail they have now and the addition that was built on some time back, was it operated under a program like this?
I was not involved in that. When we programmed it in 2008 to 11, it was really just looking at renovating and adding on to the existing. But I am sure that jail went through a programming phase to come up to where for what they went on. I highly doubt they just one day imagined that's what they needed. So it went through the phases. All decision-making that was done, I don't know why it was done the way it was at that time. So
I may have missed it on your presentation, what is this program going to cost Rutherford County?
Yes, so the program phase is $650,000, a not-to-exceed cost that will be billed at an hourly rate based off of the deliverables. What is also in the contract is that we were asked, we spoke, if you proceed to the next phase, that money will be prorated toward the next phase of fees. So it'll be an hourly rate. I've seen these tasks go anywhere from the big project I talked about, that was about a $1.2 million fee. That lasted about 10 months to do that. We may get done and we may say, hey, we don't need all this money and return it all. I will tell you, hopefully you trust us by now, but we did that on the Goldstein building when we were over there. So we've set the number to where we know we can get done a good deliverable for you guys to make a lot of decisions on. And what we've done, because this question has been asked, is we're going to tie that to deliverables, that hourly rates and billings, with all the backup and support.
Commissioner, that agreement that he's talking about is on your iPad. It should be the third attachment under the funding opportunity for the jail. I just wanted y'all to know y'all all have that. It's in front of you, the third attachment down there.
So the only firm thing about the 600,000, it won't exceed it, correct?
Yeah, 650.
650. It will not exceed that amount.
Correct. And so
there are odds that it may not be that much.
Correct. And so, for instance, I already have numbers from, SCC for plat and Alta survey if we need one. And I already know what that number is. It's included. I already got a number for general geotechnical inspections. Mark Lee may not know I have a number, but I have a number for all these items that I put in there because I made phone calls. And honestly, the team that we have, many of these team members are team members that have worked with this county on the general engineering stuff on a lot of projects. And so I felt like we've built a good team to be able to deliver well.
I believe Wilson County, aren't they building a new jail or an addition?
They already built a new, or I think it was an addition. It was addition, and it was hard bid, if I remember correctly. They're building a courthouse right now. Yeah, building a courthouse right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Commissioner?
Just one of the concerns that some people have asked is the cost, the $650, but after looking at all the work that's going to go into that, it's probably very appropriate amount, so I'm comfortable with that. This whole planning process that will happen over the next 6 months, we, especially this commission over the last 4 years or so, have emphasized planning for the future, and that's part of this process. Bart, could you really kind of cover that as to what we will be looking at and not just meet the needs right now, but if we're expecting 600,000 people, are we planning for that somewhere down the road?
Yeah, so we want to look at this, and that's why we call this the Rutherford County Criminal Justice Project, because there's a lot of needs there on the public safety just outside of the sheriff and the jail. And so we look at all those needs. We look at not today, what does it look 20 years from now? What does it look 40 years from now? And that's going to come into play. There's so much behind that question because I don't know all the stuff yet, but, we are looking in the future.
But the building, in essence, that we'll decide on and build will be expandable.
Yes.
That's part of that process, right?
Yes, that is part of the process. And just so, when we test the concept in this programming phase, it is a concept. That's not the actual 100% design, but we take it far enough to know that it works. If you can kind of see it in the background back there in blue, but that was actually the program level drawings for the last study. So we actually put enough in there. We know where the doors, the linear feet of walls, all the type, and it's enough to where we can know, okay, we can expand here, we can do a future pod here and a future pod here.
Anybody else from the committee have a question? Chairman Harris.
Bart, so in 6 months to a year, you're coming back with us with a plan, cost and all that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you doing land costs? Because you don't have a place to put it. So how do you put that number in there?
So that's a part of the study. So during this time frame, we look to this body to help identify property that we look at. So when we're doing the programming side and we're looking at the need, we're really not thinking about the property yet because it's all about the need. But that middle phase in that blue color, then hopefully by then, so 3 or 4 months, we'd like to hear from you guys what property to look at. We know we're going to look at the existing site. So we put a value on that property because we want to find the property to where it goes. So everything's on the table there. And all of that analysis will be part of the programming phase. So one thing that sold the state's legislature to do that training academy was actually across the state, they own so much property and rented property for law enforcement training. Well, my understanding is the sheriff has quite a bit of property and buildings around. That property can either be reused for something else or sold. There's a value to that. I can't tell you where we're going to go because I don't know. So, Commissioner, if you have an idea of land that we need to look at, that's going to be part of the study, most definitely. Does that answer your question?
Anybody else from the committee have a question right now? I've got a few, but I don't want to ask mine until everybody else has exhausted theirs. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and answer one of them. The list of people that are on this committee, is there anybody from the PBA on this committee? Our Public Building Authority? And I'm curious, since it doesn't look like it, why not?
I don't think so, but I can't tell you for sure.
Well, I think that's an oversight that should be taken care of. Any future meetings, I'd make a request myself that our PBA have a representative on this board to see. I mean, these are the folks that built our judicial building up the street here, and it saved us a lot of money. And that gets to my next question. I was looking for Mr. Christensen. Nick, are you here? I have a question for you. If you don't mind, please come up. While he's approaching, I want to make it clear I am in support of doing this project. And the questions I'm asking is, because it's so costly, and not just because it's so costly, I want to make sure we're going to be doing this as efficiently and cost-effective as we can. Now, I personally would prefer that the PBA be involved on this on the front end. Looks like we're doing everything we can to not have them involved from what I'm seeing. But my question for Mr. Christensen is, what is the direction that we would go toward building this building? And at what point would the PBA have an opportunity to have feedback on that? And who chooses whether the PBA would be doing that or we name an architect? Because I've seen reports in the past from the PBA. A lot of the cost savings is who the architect would be, whether that would be Mr. Klein's architect service or another. But can you please elaborate?
Yeah, so at least in my experience with capital projects that have been built by the county, it has varied in terms of at which point the county commission has decided to transfer the project to the PBA. Sometimes it is done on the front end. Other times it is done when an architect has already done design work. And even other times after we've already hired the architect, Bart, you remember on some projects, we've had to assign the agreement that we have with the architect over to the PBA to monitor and oversee the design phase and the construction phase of the project and the procurement phase of it. So there's really nothing set in stone in law as to when the county commission, if they so choose, would transfer the project over to the PBA. It's been done a number of different ways.
And who specifically would have that power to do that? What committee?
The county commission is the one who ultimately refers the project to the PBA. What we have done in the past is the PBA has always just accepted those projects, and there is a written agreement that is signed between the county commission and the PBA, transferring the project and laying out the funding that is going to be provided. And oftentimes we deal with guaranteed maximum price, and sometimes we've had to come back after the PBA has done their work and the contractor has come up with a guaranteed maximum price, to have it come back to the county commission for approval and allow, at that point, the PBA to continue working on the project.
Nick, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to catch you by surprise there, but when I saw that, I didn't recognize anybody that was on this list as being a representative from the PBA, and that concerns me greatly. And I would certainly like to see that retrofit, that corrected, Sheriff, if you don't mind. Any other questions from anybody on the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair? So just a question, would the motion need to accept this document or just the funding?
Tonight, if this committee likes to move forward, excuse me, you just need to move forward with the funding of this.
I'll move that we move forward with $650,000 to fund the programming stage.
We're also going to have to tell me where to take, to work up the resolution, where to take the funding from. I can give this committee several options tonight. I believe the other two committees, if I read their forwarding request right, wanted to leave that up to this committee to decide where we take that money from. If you want me to at this time, I can give you those 2 or 3 options.
I'll withdraw the motion, so let's go over that.
Sorry.
Make a motion. Yeah, thank you.
You want me to go over so a couple options. I'm going to give you 2 or 3. I can give you my recommendation if you'd like, but they're all available to you. Option 1, and I'm not going to rank these in any specific order. Option 1 is we can fund this through a future debt offering or a future bond issuance. Option 2 would be that we can take this out of fund balance, out of the general fund. Option 3 is we have some leftover money from some savings and some other capital projects. And so we could shift money in our capital projects fund to fund this. Those are really the main 3 options that are the most available. We could do some other more complex options. My recommendation would be not to borrow for this. This is not a large amount of money in the scope of our budget. So my recommendation would be to use leftover capital projects money in our Fund 171. However, using fund balance is also an option if this committee so wishes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve funding for the $650,000 for the programming stage using leftover capital project funds from 171, and then move for the fund balance if needed.
I didn't catch the last part, Commissioner. Move that the fund balance what?
To use fund balance if we've exhausted all of the capital project moves.
Okay, and is part of your motion the 650 would be the maximum amount?
650,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Question, clarification.
Well, let's get a second first. Second. I have a second. Commissioner Irving.
Do we need to clarify which fund?
So I'll go ahead and expand on that a little bit. It is going to be in Fund 170 Fund, which is our county capital projects fund. I'll go ahead and add, we're not going to need fund balance money. We have about $3 million left over, a little over that. We're still finalizing some things. We have about $3.1 million left over from the transfer station. What we'll probably end up doing is shifting that money down to the forensic center and shifting money from the forensic center down to this. What that does is allow us to avoid arbitrage on some leftover bond money. That bond money does have a timeline it needs to be spent on, and so we'll shift it amongst 3 projects, but the only reason we'll do that is to avoid the arbitrage rules for the IRS. If you remember, we funded the forensic center with general fund unassigned money, and so we'll move it on down the line to spend the most restricted first. But I don't see any need that we have about $3 million left over, so we won't need that for this 650, any fund balance money.
But the motion that I've stated reflects
Correct.
that process.
But it is in Fund 171, Commissioner, to your question.
Any further discussion? Justin, call roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Chairman P.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you guys for your presentation. At this time, I'm going to ask the committee that we move our agenda around. I would like to move item 19 and item 20B forward in that order. If I don't see any objection from the committee, Nick is here and several people that are having to wait through to see that. Do I see any problem with that? All right. Now, the next question I want to ask, we've been here, come from. Oh, okay. Gentlemen, you can go, and thank you.
Thank you.
The next question, we've been here an hour and a half. Would you like to take a break before we start this next group? I'm seeing some nods. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Please keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to reconvene at this time, and want to call on item 19, Rutherford County Highway Department Private Act. Please come forward, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you for the break. My legs are going to sleep.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Brooks. I am the Rutherford County Road Superintendent, and I'm here tonight to bring you the action that was taken at the Road Board meeting Monday morning, then is concerning our Private Act and a revision to our Private Act, or actually a whole rewrite of our Private Act. So just to give you a little bit of background, I feel like I'm whistling. Just to give you a little bit of background, some of our board members asked if we could maybe look into revising the Private Act that existed, because some of the things that were on there were very old and just antiquated language from, it's a 1951 Private Act. A lot of things had been superseded or overridden by County Uniform Highway Law, which is general law. And so there were a lot. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that we were operating outside of our, where we should have been. A lot of the things that were revised were meeting dates, how we elect a chairman, how we elect a vice chair, all those types of things. And all those things were the result of different road board meetings where a motion was made and seconded and approved. So there are meeting minutes to that end for all of those things, but it did need a cleanup. So during that process, we got our county attorney to come in. This has been ongoing for months. We got our county attorney to come in so he could kind of help, well, so he could craft the language, the legalese, if you will, to take this thing on, hopefully from the county commission to our state legislator for their approval, and then it would be back to the county commission for ratification if it's approved. So during that process, it came to light that our purchasing piece was needed updating. The limits were very low, and the process was not what it should be. So what Nick came up with and the board voted on Monday morning, and it was 6 yes, and one person was absent. They had to leave early. But what we came up with, we put in at the ask of some of the road board members, that our purchasing piece would mimic what County General does. So the spending limits would become what County Generals are currently, which is why I'm here tonight, because we went from road board meeting to the steering committee, to Public Works, and then it was suggested that we come here because we're changing the purchasing piece. So that's why I'm here tonight, primarily, you all. The reason I'm here in front of you is because of the change to the purchasing piece. It's not really about the whole private act. So the limits are, I'm sure you're aware of what the limits are, but just in case, it's $20,000 to $50,000. I need to get at least 3 written or otherwise documented price quotes, if at all possible. And anything over $50,000 would be a sealed bid process. So, and then that would be opened up at one of the board meetings.
What is it currently now?
Well, it's, in all likelihood, it's probably $25,000. If you read the private act that exists, it could be $200. So, but the state law really says $25,000. Am I right on that, Michael?
Currently, we're operating under state law, which would be $25,000. And if you remember, that's what we were at up until last year when we changed hours. And we've had some issues. One of the reasons we're doing this, I'm going to compound on what Greg's saying is, remember we did the transfer station road, the highway department saved us a ton of money doing some work for us. It gets into an issue where they've got a limit that's different than ours, and this really helped streamline that so that as we do infrastructure projects for the county going forward, that we can have a uniform set of competitive bid limits. And so that was kind of one of the other reasons for doing this. But you are correct, it was our private act that's kind of antiquated and that's been superseded was 200, and then we're currently operating at the highway department under 25,000.
That was my understanding as well, but I want to make sure, didn't want to misspeak.
Commissioner Piercy, you're recognized.
Based on the fact that all present members that voted on this was unanimous in passing it on to our committees, and I know it passed through Public Works the other night to bring it on to this committee. I'll make the motion to pass it on through this committee on to the full commission. Is that where it needs to go?
I believe that's the action. I believe that is with a positive recommendation. I believe that is.
We have a motion and a second to forward this to the full commission with a positive recommendation. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Let me back up and have you call roll since this does.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
That's all I have for you tonight. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for getting that ice off the roads. All right, that brings us to 20B, the Child Advocacy Center capital funding. And I think we probably have a spokesman here from them. Welcome, Bill.
My name is Bill Whitesell. I live at 306 Hale Avenue, Murfreesboro. I'm here as a member of the Child Advocacy Center Board of Directors and also as the co-chair of our capital campaign. To refresh your memories, last budget cycle, I believe it was probably in May or June, we appeared and the county allocated $1 million towards our capital campaign for the purchase of a new building. It was unanimously approved by the full commission, and we would like to have the money actually appropriated, and I've talked to the county attorney, Mr. Christensen, and we will have a formal contract, hopefully in time to permit that, provided the county commission and this committee move forward on appropriating that money for us. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Irving.
Could you give us a sense for what's transpired? What events have occurred since the money was approved, and how much have you raised, and why do you need the money now?
Yes, sir. We have in pledges and money on hand, we have right at $1.7 million. Of that, approximately little less than 1.4 million we have as cash on hand. We are buying the building we're presently in from Dr. Jim Garner. The sale price and negotiated price is $1.3 million. We have a letter of intent. We hope to have a contract that we will be signing next week, both parties, after our board meeting that's scheduled for next week. And we have a tentative closing date of February the 26th. Our renovation budget, the things that we need to do, new roof, pave the parking lot, HVAC system, upgrade the electrical system, and all the renovations that we'll need to do. We have a budget of a little bit over $1 million for that. And of course, you never know until you get into it. Every time my wife has remodeled a room or something, a kitchen at home, it's always been more than what we thought it was going to be. And so, but we've worked hard on that budget. The other contingencies are during the renovations, we will probably have to move out of that building and have expenditures for expenses for relocation for some period of time.
So at this point, you don't have a contract for the space that you'd like to purchase?
We have both parties have signed a letter of intent for us to purchase.
Is it binding?
Pardon?
Is it?
Oh, it's not binding, no, sir.
Okay, so right now, there's a need, but you don't have something that's basically a contract at this point.
We'll have that next week.
Okay, so it seems to me, it seems a bit premature until we know we've got a contract, just my opinion, but it seems a bit premature until there's a binding contract. So I'm trying to think of, is there a way to do it short of approving the money at this point? Because the obvious question is, what happens if it doesn't become a binding contract? Are we perhaps not going to release the money? Of course, that's in the agreement between the county that doesn't exist yet either, right?
So in talks with the county attorney, I think this may solve the answer to your question, and I think Mr. Weitzel and Nick have talked a second ago. I think one of the things that might be appropriate for this body, if they wish, would be to direct tonight, instead of sending this to the commission, they could direct Nick to draw up that contract between the county and Child Advocacy Center. That would come back to this body and to commission next month to then approve that money, which would give them time to finish out their contract on purchasing the building. It's that time that would be purchased, and at that time you would be able to see the contract between Child Advocacy and the county. Is my understanding of what might be appropriate. Is that yours, Mr. Weitzel? Is that okay?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Nick, will you have time to, you think, get this arranged by our full commission meeting? Say a thumbs up.
It'll come back next. For clarification, this will come back to budget next month and go to commission next month in March, not next Thursday.
And that does work with your timetable, Mr. Weitzel?
I'm at your disposal, Mr. Chairman.
I understand that, but if you've got a contract, I thought I understood that you had a contract due up on the 26th of February.
We expect to close on the building on the 26th, yes.
Okay, but this will not deter that?
No.
Okay.
No.
The 26th of what?
February.
That's why I had you say why I had
the dates are not so far working.
No, so if I understand it, just to simplify this, they are trying to close on their purchase of a building by February 26th, which is why they just have the 2 letters of intent. They're working towards closing at the end of this month. But as they do that, I think we're proposing that the county attorney would work with them, because they already have some other cash, in their capital campaign to purchase the building. So then they would come back to this body in March, and it would go to commission in March to get the county's contribution. And at the same time, we would have in front of you the legal agreement that the county attorney and that Child Advocacy would work up.
Okay, sorry, my mistake. You already have the cash to purchase and close the land.
Yes, sir.
And by the time it comes back next month, then that's really for the renovations, correct?
Yes.
Got it. Sorry. Thank you very much. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, what do we need in the way of a motion, Michael?
So I think you could, I think if you wanted to, you could just make a motion to, if you, it's probably not needed, but if you wanted to, you could make a motion for Nick to work with the Child Advocacy Center on developing a contract and bring that back to budget next month.
I would entertain a motion for that, so it's clear to the rest of the commission, even though we've voted to fund this.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second for Mr. Christensen to work with the Child Advocacy Center and for this to come back to budget next month. Any further discussion? Commissioner Piercy?
I think I was involved in getting this motion passed maybe up in the beginning. Did we not set a mark that they needed to come up with before we relinquished the $1 million to them?
We did. We said they had to have their other capital campaign done, and I think what he's saying tonight is he has met that mark for us, that they have now money to purchase the building, and they have met those metrics, which we'll work through with Nick on the contract. That was my understanding. I may have misunderstood, but I think he was saying tonight that's the reason they came back, is they have now that other capital. We were their seed money or their seed allocation, but if I'm understanding correctly, they have now the other donors that's how they can purchase the building and things. But I may have misunderstood. That was my understanding.
It's kind of different to what I recollect, but I'm not going to stand in the way.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, that brings us back around to item 7, general fund budget amendment for the county commission. And let's see, who's going to do this one? Is it Chairman Phillips or Michael?
Give me a minute, I'll pull this up. So this is a budget amendment for the county commissions category. So in talks, I prepared this kind of on behalf of Chairman Phillips, and this was purposely came after the item number 6 tonight. So what this budget does is two things. There has been a request as we look at planning for a new jail, whenever that may be, either now or over the next 5 years. There's been a request for the commissioners to be able to go on the tour of those jails, whether that be with the study group or any commissioner that wishes to go. I view this similar to when the commission went to tour various solid waste sites back under the previous administration. So we needed to set aside some money to do that. And so that does this. That increases that travel budget to do something like to go tour 5 or 6 jails throughout the state. This also allocates a little bit of money for it's called other charges, but it's really for miscellaneous items. As we go forward towards a new commission and things like that, the commission really doesn't have a place to buy things like nameplates, to buy business cards, things like that, or some types of just administrative cost for paperwork or things like that. And so we've paid for that out of various places over the years. This kind of cleans that up and puts it all in one place. But we really do need a place to where if a nameplate breaks or we have a new commissioner, which we did this year, we had a new commissioner that came on board that was appointed halfway through. We've kind of piecemealed that together in the past, so that's what this budget amendment does. Did I get all that right, Chairman Phillips?
Yes, Michael, you sure did. There has been a need for some incidental expenses such as nameplates, business cards, those kind of things. Very, very small amounts of money. So, and since the commission is running its own business now, I think we ought to have the opportunity to purchase those things ourselves.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. Any other questions?
Just a quick question about travel. That would go through, how would that work? Who would approve it? How would it? And I'm not asking for a whole set of procedures. I'm just trying to get a sense. Is there already something in place? Okay.
If you remember a few months ago, steering passed a set of kind of those rules, but in this case, typically what it'll do is be coordinated through the mayor's office, and the chairman usually coordinate a full commission travel to a site. But if you remember, steering did take up some rules for individual travel, but in this case, typically we'll do that with the collective chairmans of each committee or the chairman of the commission in conjunction with who's ever going somewhere.
Okay, so we'll just piggyback on those. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, Justin.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion passes. Item 8, general fund budget amendment for PAWS. Sorry to keep you waiting so long, Michael, but
Being back at the office at 5:30, we'll come quick in the morning.
yeah.
So we have a budget amendment. There were a couple of POs that were erroneously liquidated at the end of last fiscal year for some projects that we already had in the works. So this is shoring up those lines where that money was spent out.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Discussion. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. And just for the audience that are listening, this is money that was left over out of his budget from last year that we're pulling back out. This is not a quick flash decision here. That's had been run through the budget season before. Michael, continue for your next one.
Yes, sir. The next request is for PAWS to apply for 3 grants and accept those grants if received. None of these require county matches. The first one is the State of Tennessee Animal Friendly Grant, which we've applied for several years, that provides spay and neuter services for low-income residents. The second is a Petco Love Animal Welfare Organization grant. We've received that for several years as well. That's to be used within the shelter for what they term life-saving projects. The third one is a new one through Hill Science Diet Food Shelter and Love Adoption Grant. Funds obviously for that have to be used for special adoption events. That is a new one, but again, all 3 require no county match.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, call roll, Justin.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
All right, item 10, solid waste fund budget amendment for transfer station. Something I'll mention before Matt gets started. I asked a question at Public Works the other night about the revenues that we're receiving. If you notice on your desk, you'll see those. So, oh, I'm sorry, they're on your iPad. Thank you. So there's SharePoint, anybody in the county can look at it. Go ahead, Matt, sorry.
Good evening. I'm your interim solid waste director, Matt Davis. And essentially, the transfer station has exceeded the targets for what we thought we would be processing. We took in more, so we are asking for more money to pay to load and haul and transport that waste onto the landfill. We're asking for the $3.5 million for that.
Okay, any questions? This is not just him asking for 3.5. This is actually what offsetting. Michael, if you want to explain that, please.
So when this, originally when we did the budget last year, and Matt was not the director at the time, I believe that was still Bishop, when they submitted their budget requests and estimates for how much they thought they would process, that was low. And so this increases the appropriation to be able to ship that trash off, but it also increases the estimated revenue that they're going to get in. So it is offsetting. It's not coming out of their fund balance. But since we do have to, we don't typically vote on revenue at the year. You only pass an appropriations resolution. But in this case, we're going to offset it with the tipping fees that the haulers are paying to come to the transfer station. So it'll be offset.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. Any questions from the committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second, Mr. Sereno. Discussion, go ahead.
Just a quick question. There was, at some point, we were going to be, we on this committee, and I think it was property management, we're going to be receiving financials on kind of a regular basis, okay, with respect to the transfer station. And I'm okay with this reclass or whatever, but I'm trying to get a sense, could you commit every month or every couple of months to come in and give us a report?
Sure.
For financials, to know how we're doing. That way we have a better sense when something like this pops up. We have a better sense this is what's going on out there.
Sure.
Is that fair? Okay. If you can commit to do that, we're good to go.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if I could, if that's okay, on your iPad, the second attachment there, that is, I pulled that this morning or last night. That is, I mean, we can't have Matt bring the expenditure side to you. That is a list of the detailed by vendor, the total tipping fee revenue that has come. So I think probably what's missing from one of the bigger things that's missing from that Matt can bring next month would be the expenditure side of this.
Exactly.
But that does give you, and just for the committee, that does give you a vendor by vendor breakdown and the scale of that, of what's happened really as of yesterday, the day before yesterday. There's a little bit of a timing difference on a couple of these things, right? As some of our vendors pay net 30 and some of them pay cash as the time they tip. But this is what we've received as far as the trustee's office and the finance office as of yesterday.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the chairman asking for this specific side, but we are missing the expenditure side, and that would be helpful. Thank you.
And be sure to thank Michael and their group too. They put this together for us.
Thank you, Michael.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Matt, hang around for just a moment. The next item, 11, is discussion of security cameras for solid waste. I want to give a little background on this. As many of you have, commissioners, have probably had discussion with some of your constituents about problems that they've run into at the convenience centers. I've talked to a lot of our employees. Sometimes they've been threatened. You know, there's acts that happen there that should not be happening. And basically, I've asked for in the past for us to put some kind of security camera system in place at these convenience centers. At our last Public Works meeting, I brought that and asked us to bring it forward. And what we're doing here tonight, the reason we're doing this is forwarded to the committee from our secretary. When that happens, we don't like to take stuff like that off of our agenda. But what we want to happen, whether we'll need a vote on this or not, is basically for Matt, which he's already agreed to do, to get with Cody York and look into what it would take and what we would need to be able to get cameras in these sites and a cost analysis. You know, that may mean that it'd have to be bid out in the future through purchasing. We don't know any of that yet. But basically, the reason we brought this up is let the Budget Committee be aware that this is a cost that may be coming, and also give Michael a chance to look at some resources we might have of being able to pay this, you know, whether it be coming out of your budget or something that we need to dig into. Anyway, that's the story on the background here. As far as cost, myself, there are some of the places that have Wi-Fi service, and I understand, or some of them don't. But I do know that, you know, if you've got a traffic camera in your car those things are recording all the time. They don't have to be downloaded to Wi-Fi. You can pull them as needed. So if you had an accident, and you go back and plug them into your computer and say, hey, here's what happened. And if nothing else, I think we could at least do that. But, we may need something more sophisticated. Somebody asked me about, well, would it need to have audio? Well, that'd be good, but, at least visual, because a lot of this stuff is basically, you can see what happens if there's an altercation. You may not hear what's being said. But anyway, this is going to allow them to get with Cody, work this out, and get with our finance director. And then after they do that, what I've requested is that go back to Public Works, which is what we talked about the other night, Commissioner Piercy, and then Public Works make a decision whether to forward it back to budget to us. Anyway, that's kind of where we're sitting. Go ahead.
I don't think we need a motion tonight. I'll be glad to work with Matt and Cody. And then we'll just go ahead and add this, kind of defer this till next month so that we don't lose track of it and make sure that we follow through with it. So if it's okay with the committee and the chairman, we'll go ahead and add it to next month's agenda pending approval from Public Works. Obviously, it'll go to Public Works first. But if that's okay, that's what we'll do.
Chairman P.,
You're recognized.
on the camera situation, are you referring to just putting one camera per site or multiple cameras so the whole working area is covered?
Well, I think that's what they need to dig into for us. As well as I do, something could happen anywhere on that site. And that's why you asked that, and I understand. So I can't answer that, and I don't think he can right now, but I think once y'all look at it, you can report back to Public Works and let us know what you find.
I would just say where each site is different, we're going to have to tailor to each site as far as the connectivity that's available. The layout of each site is different, so it's going to be different camera setups that have to cover it.
What about putting a camera on the attendants?
It's something we can explore with Cody. I don't know what's available, what kind of recessors that'll cost, but I'm definitely open to bringing that to you.
So is the goal to figure out kind of the range, everything from what the chairman was asking about in terms of continuous video monitoring, or, only when there's, a deer walks across it or something like that? I guess those are kind of the extremes. Or what's included in that? Or are you just going to provide whatever you can find?
I'll tell you, my goal is first safety. We have confrontations that are a real problem sometimes. Beyond that, we want to hold our employees accountable for, behaving properly with our residents. And then I think you never know what you're going to find when you put cameras up. There's a lot of ways they might end up being used.
Might help us on us putting the wrong recycling in the wrong bin. We might can see a problem there. I see Chairman Johnson back there. Yeah, he's thinking that too. Mike, I appreciate your help, Matt. Thank you. Guys, we're going to move on to the next part, and that is a general fund budget amendment for the property assessor. And I don't see Rob. Michael, you want to carry this?
I'll be glad to speak about what I can on this tonight. We did communicate with Rob multiple times this week, sent him the dates that they asked, but ultimately he is over budget on his part-time line item. We went back and forth about how to remedy that, and my recommendation was to take it out of his existing deputies line, which is where all of his full-time employees are paid, and he does have several vacancies in that line. So what you see before you tonight is to transfer money out of his deputies line into his part-time line. But I want to clarify, his deputies, that is the line item that we use for all of his employees in his office other than himself. So he doesn't have, it's not like, don't think of it like a sheriff's office deputy, think of it more like a clerk. But they're all in that line. He has one full-time line item.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Irving, any questions? Hearing none, call roll, Justin.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. That brings us to item 13, general fund budget amendment for safe street grants. And I see somebody that's been waiting patiently for us. Welcome, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members,
Jared, introduce yourself, please, and tell them what you do. I'm sorry.
I will. Jared Bonar, I'm with Rutherford County Planning and Engineering. I'm Assistant County Engineer up there. Back in May of last year, we had requested permission to apply for what is called the Safe Streets for All grant. It is a planning grant with the focus on reducing fatal and injury crashes on our transportation system along highways, pedestrian streets, that kind of thing throughout the county. We had applied for what is a planning grant. That's where we would be to develop what is a comprehensive safety action plan for the county. That plan is consisted of 7 components: leadership, commitment, and goal setting, planning structure, safety analysis, engagement and collaboration, policy and process changes, strategy and project selections, and progress and transparency on that. What we had asked for was $575,000 from US DOT for this grant. We found out we had received that grant on the 30th of December. So it's a 20% match, which is what the fund balance transfer is for. We were awarded $460,000 from US DOT, and our county match is $115,000 on that. So, and at the end, we're going to have a plan that focuses on our roadway network to highlight the areas that we have severe and fatal crashes. We'll develop a strategy to address those areas and use that strategy hopefully in the years to come to continue to reduce those locations throughout the county. And then it's that we have to have a public website to track that document and our progress in that. So with that, I have any questions?
80-20%.
Yes, sir. 80 US DOT and 20 from county.
Michael, can you track the increase and decrease for us? Because it's 140, I only see 40, but.
There's this grant is a little different. Let me pull it up. There's an indirect cost on this, and part of our indirect cost is going to be our in-kind match. So it's going to be less than the 115. We're providing some indirect cost labor to do this, and that's going to offset a dollar amount match. So we're essentially going to provide some labor for this, some overhead cost, and that's going to reduce our physical money match. I'm pulling this up real quick. I don't know.
Any further questions while he's looking there?
Yeah. Is this just in the unincorporated area?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we will focus on the unincorporated area. There may be some state roads that get kind of drawn into it, but it's just in that. No, we're not looking at the cities at all.
Commissioner Pearson.
This was presented to us in Public Works the other night, and we passed it through unanimously. I'll make the motion to pass it on.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and any input from the committee? If not, I want to make a suggestion. Michael?
The indirect cost breakdown is not on your iPad in front of you. I can get that to you. I do know that $40,000 is the monetary amount we're going to have to match, but we're also eligible for indirect cost overhead, which is really, they're giving us credit for our overhead costs, and that's going to be like Alyssa Phillips and Dewana that's in our grants and community development department. They give us credit for their work. That's part of our match because we're putting resources behind this. And so instead of us writing a check for our match, we're going to give some labor, some things like that. We're putting some skin in the game that way. And then we put some cash with it to equal that. That helps save us money and helps reimburse us for some of the overhead costs for administering these. I also will add, I think you're going to see these more and more as we expand our grants and community development department, which is we've done that a lot over the last couple of years. You're going to see some more of these indirect costs, and that's going to help fund that department to be more self-sufficient as we get more of these grants, especially as the county grows. But in this case, that's the difference in the math of what you're seeing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from the committee? Hearing none, I've got a couple things I want to ask, and I'm glad Chairman Phillips and Chairman Johnson are both here. This grant is studying our roads. I know Chairman Phillips, you can probably straighten me out, but don't we have a long-range transportation plan coming up from planning?
Excuse me, Chairman. Yes, we do. It's somewhat outdated and in the process of being updated right now. It's really confusing because what we're using is old and outdated, but it's in the process of being updated right now. And, you know, as we get into this budget process, some of these funds would be extremely important as it relates to future planning as to how we process and prioritize some road construction projects. So in my mind, this is something that we just don't need to pass up.
Well, and I agree. I think it's very much needed. And I think Commissioner Johnson, we talked about this the other night. And here's my suggestion and my concern is the group that this grant is written for. I think Commissioner Dodd heads up a group that's been studying transportation problems. But we don't have any oversight from planning on this grant or where they're going. What my request would be that we add to this that they report to planning and let planning see what they're doing, and then they report to Public Works for approval. That would be my suggestion. Now, we've got a motion and a second on the floor, and it's up to the committee if you want to take that into consideration, but I think it's pertinent that we have our planning commission involved. Commissioner Gooch, you know, your own planning, you know how important that is. But anyway, that's up to y'all. Your motion is from Commissioner Piercy. Who was the second? Commissioner Gooch. But guys, that's up to y'all. Any other discussion or?
The second is okay with that.
Okay. So
Jared,
Michael, can we add
Jared,
that?
does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good point.
If I could, I'm going to read that back to be sure we've got that up here for the minutes. So the motion is, I'm pulling this up to make sure I get the language correct here. So the motion is going to be to approve the Safe Streets grant and attach budget amendment with the condition that they work with the Planning Commission and report that back to the Public Works Committee.
For approval.
For approval.
Okay, I still see nods on my motions. Any further discussion? Justin, call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
The next one.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
So, the next thing I had for y'all is permission to apply for the build grant, better utilizing investments to leverage development application, to better leverage development. It is a capital projects grant that is out there. The way it's broken down, there's two types of grants that can be applied for. One is for the actual construction of capital projects, and one is for planning of those projects. The way the grant is presented to us is that we can make up to 3 separate applications for different projects for planning. And due to the county and the ruralness of it, where most of those projects can fall, there would be a no match for us. It would be 100% funded. Then that would be what we would apply for, would be for 100% funding of those grants. As I also read the document, the notice of funding opportunity, I believe we can help fund the long-range transportation plan out of one of these applications. So that would be one of the applications we would make, would be to help fund that.
Let me make sure I understood you, or go ahead, Michael.
So I want to clarify on this one because it's a little different than the one we just did. This one we don't plan on using the match piece because if I understand it, they plan on doing this just in the rural areas, but because this is potentially could have a match, what he's asking for tonight is permission to apply. this will, if awarded, this will come before, if awarded to accept, this will come back through Public Works at that time and come back through the applicable committee process. Tonight, he's asking for permission to apply. We can't go ahead and accept it because there might be a match. They don't plan on using it, but because there might be, if awarded, it'll have to come back through Public Works. And at that time, you would hear the acceptance and the final plan that Jared and his team would present.
We would take that to planning as well.
Yep.
Thank you. You've heard the request to apply for grants, matching and possibly unmatched. Do I hear a motion or further discussion?
So moved.
I have a motion to
Second.
approve application of the grants. Further discussion. Chairman Gooch.
Thank you. Quick question. So this is a federal grant,
Yes.
and does it flow through Tennessee Department of Transportation or just directly?
No, it would come directly to us. It does not go through TDOT.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you again.
Chairman.
All right. Gets us down to item 15, application for the 2025 Homeland Security Grant, and right after that would be the Urban Security Initiative Homeland Security Grant. Here's a guy with a lot of patience. Come on up.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee. We're requesting to apply for 2025 Homeland Security Grant. This is a 100% reimbursement grant from the federal government.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second.
And what's
This-
covered currently?
It's a regional capabilities grant. So on this grant, we have a foam trailer for petroleum type fires, and we will house that here in our county so that when a gasoline tanker truck or a plane crash, we use that foam for that trailer. That's one of those items. Things like that.
These grants originated right after 9/11.
Correct.
And it was for beefing up infrastructure for safety throughout the states. So we've been doing it since then.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? And do I have a motion on this one? I do. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 16, Chris.
It's kind of similar to the Homeland Security Grant. This too is a 100% reimbursement grant from the federal government for Urban Security Initiative Homeland Security Grant. Same process, different money. Basically, we qualify due to the population with Nashville area. So there's 5 different counties that are in this urban area security area. And so we get extra funding for that.
And what would we typically spend this money on?
Typically, we spend this money the same way we do the Homeland Security Grant. There are projects throughout the region.
We have a motion to approve and a second, Commissioner Piercy. Further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Chris. Item 17, Rutherford Opioid Board fiscal year 26 letter of agreement. Michael, you want to?
I'll take this one. So every year, as you know, the last several years, we have gotten money. This is from the Opioid Abatement Council at the state. That's different from our money we get from the Brown-Greer part of the settlement. But every year, we've gotten this money, and the reason you need to see this before you deny it is if you approve this tonight, it'll go to the commission, and what happens is the mayor will sign it, and Alyssa and her department will return this to the state to allow us to get this money. This will be $789,000 $823.92. The previous years, we've gotten about $1.5 million each year, but this upcoming year will be $789,823.92. And there is no match to this piece. We do have to submit regular reports to the state on how we spend this. But this is how we fund all of the nonprofit awards and all the work that the ROB committee is doing.
Yeah, can I, Mr. Chairman?
You're recognized.
Yeah, Commissioners, our money has been cut pretty heavily. So I've had to make some tough decisions, and the board has agreed that we're going to cap all funds maximum at $100,000. So that's going to be some big cuts for some people. It's also going to be some big cuts for budget because we give right at 200 and something thousand to Sheriff's Department. So unfortunately, we're having to make these cuts just so we can continue to offer help to as many people as we can. Also, I had gotten a call from Dr. Lloyd, who is over the abatement, and he had said that Rutherford County is the leader and that we have done great things, and I wanted to pass that on to you. But I also want to let you know this money is not guaranteed. I mean, it's a portion, small portion guaranteed, but this number fluctuates. So a lot of people are paying their money up front in these lawsuits, and we're getting that money right away. Now some people are starting to, Michael, diminish. So you're going to see this number fluctuate a lot. So I just want to let you know in budget time's coming up that there's going to be some cuts. So, Michael, you need to say anything about that?
We need one. But I agree with Commissioner Harris. I'll also add, one of the things this committee does to kind of protect us is they have every nonprofit organization or civic organization we give this money to has to come back every year and apply. So that's another thing that we do to kind of protect us. So we're not going to be out any money that this is reduced. It just limits the amount of people we can help. But the only risk is the money. They fund also one other position. I believe they fund a position in the probation department as well. So we'll be tackling that as part of the budget season. But one of the things they do is cap everybody at the fiscal year, so people will come back and have to reapply. So it should help protect us a little bit.
Any further questions from the committee? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion.
Second.
And a second to accept the, excuse me, I lost my place here, to accept the money for the opioid board and to allow the mayor to sign that letter of agreement. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin? Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Item 18 is a revision to the Kittrell Community Center lease, and I'll cover that right quick. Michael may pick up. We have already passed this lease, but when we got to digging into it, there was a question about the water meter, who would be paying that. The fire department hadn't made an agreement to take care of that since it was such a small amount of water. And then two, the lease allows, if there was a change, that we could come back and make a change if we needed to. So that was one of the changes. One of the other changes is the area that the ballpark actually controls. There's part of that is some of the training centers that the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department built, including a fire tower, smokehouse building, and also a drafting tank. That needs to stay with the fire department, and this is corrected in this update.
So what's in front of you tonight, the lease part about the water hydrant is corrected. What is not correct in front of you tonight is Exhibit A on page 9. So if we pass this tonight, if you could pass it with the exception that we're going to revise Exhibit A on page 9. And that didn't get revised when we did this, but we caught it tonight. There's a little red box on the last page. That needs to be, what Chairman Peace said, that box needs to be drug over to some of the more, to keep kids safe as they're playing on the ball fields and stuff. We need that to stay with the county and not part of the lease agreement. That's part of the fire department's training ground. So if you pass this tonight, it'll be with we'll have this corrected before we get to commission Thursday, but with the understanding that we're going to revise Exhibit A for that red box to be a little bit bigger to cover the rest of the fire department's training grounds.
It'll actually extend to your right as you're looking at that map over toward the blue line. You can see some kind of rust-colored structures there. And that's the structures that'll remain under the fire department. Any questions? Not, we'll entertain a motion to make this change.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 20A. This is a very important other business. Michael?
I feel like we've saved the best for last. You know, we focus a lot on spending here, but tonight I'm going to bring you something. Hopefully we can save a little bit of money. So tonight before you, we worked hard on this week. It was kind of more of a last minute. We realized we had an opportunity to do this. Over the last several years, we've done quite a few refundings. So we have the ability to potentially refund a bond from 2016. That bond is callable on April 1st. Without getting too much in the weeds, we're allowed to start that process 90 days before it's callable and go into escrow if we so choose. But part of tonight, what I'm asking for, and you can see the resolution, the escrow agreement, and the refunding agreement that's been approved by the Comptroller's Office. I'm asking for permission to potentially do a refunding. This will give prior approval for me to do this in conjunction with our bond counsel and municipal advisor. We'll look at the markets over the next 2 or 3 months, but I'll direct your attention to the Comptroller letter. That's the third attachment there. On the second page, it talks about, I'm looking for it, it talks about what the savings would be. And this is a conservative number, but right now we think we could save a little over $1 million. It's at the bottom paragraph of the second page of that. It says the anticipated net present value savings are $1,070,000. Now, with that being said, I want to caveat, interest rates are moving every day, all day, just like the market is. Things are not tied directly to the Fed funds rate. If they were to lower, that doesn't mean our bond rates will go lower. But long story short, this gives us the permission to refund those 2016 bonds and potentially save about $1 million.
All right. I have a motion. Do I hear a second? And a second. Any further discussion? Michael, anything else you want to say on all
So
lines?
we're refunding from what? Well, how much is left in? How much would it be
After our principal payment on April 1st, there'll be a little over $63 million outstanding. That number is going to be on page 2 of that comptroller report. It's $63,585,000 would be outstanding from 2016. There's 10 years left after April 1st on those bonds. That's when they're callable now. We would refund that with another 10-year issuance. So essentially, we're swapping one coupon rate of a certain percentage for a lower one.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got motion and second. Need to call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes. That concludes the business that I have, unless Michael or one of you have something else. The only thing I want to say is thank you, Michael, for doing an excellent job in digging these refunds out for us. That's last time I counted, and I asked him to give us a total over the last few years. Last time I looked at this, we were in the neighborhood of $20 million that we've saved in the last maybe 15 years by, I'm going to say not creative bookkeeping, but by using Michael's head to help us.
I just want to say one thing. We could not do this without our bond counsel out of Nashville. We started this conversation Monday of this week, and we were able to turn this around. Our bond counsel out of Bassbury Sims helped get this all together for tonight. And we have a municipal advisor out of Stevens Investment Group that helps us tremendously. And even the Comptroller's Office, I made a call to them. I believe it was Tuesday at lunchtime. I stepped out and made a call to them, and they were able to get this turned around to us. So we could not have done it without those three. So I just publicly want to say thank you to them as well. But, this is how we're able to potentially do a jail or something like that is by these things right here to free up some capacity. These are tremendously, and I will come back to this committee and I've been working on see if I can get a consolidated list of the savings that we've done over the last several years of these refundings and stuff, because it is quite considerable. It's in the millions for sure.
All right, guys, that's everything I've got. We're adjourned.